Okay, so the first thing I did with the Cabane hardware is I ran the fitting all the way into the stop and then backed it out a half a turn and made sure that the holes were pointing front and back. And then I ran the jam nut down and snugged it up to set this one. Figured that this one isn't going to have a whole lot of adjustment in it, and I want it to be pretty rigid to hold this. And then I put the flying wire through the hole and pull it out. I'll show you in a second to show the length, but then run a barrel fitting up both strands to kind of cinch that up. And I just did that on all of these as a placeholder while I was cutting all the strands. Let me reset the camera and I'll show you how far it reaches out and about the other fittings and how to wire it up. Okay, I'm gonna try to show this the best I can. It's tough to see on the camera because everything's so thin. The flying wires even fit in the gap. I haven't done the hinge gap yet, but you can see I have a barrel on each strand here, and the one barrel that holds it in half on both. So we'll go ahead and run this one up, and you can see over here I cut the strands so that they come out to the blue check mark, and that gives me room to work with because there's a good procedure to thread these to make sure that they don't come undone. And just try to keep the install clean. I separate these for which one's front and back the best I can to start with anyway, because eventually there'll be some adjustment necessary. Now I have these threaded in so that there's just a couple threads coming out the bottom, and that'll give me some room to tighten up the wire. Now I'll run this through here, and come back up through the barrel connector, pull it up, slide this down a bit, loop it around, and come back up through the barrel connector again. It's going to be a tight fit, but this is what helps make sure that when you crimp it, it's going to stay. Now I leave these loops loose for right now so that I can adjust the tension on all of them at the same, adjust the tension on each one and then crimp it down. And since I know that they're going to stretch a little, kind of like rudder cables or such, that you're going to have some room for adjustment even the next day. And I encourage you to let these sit at least overnight and then readjust them the next day. Slide the barrel connector down, loop it around, and come up through the barrel again. Alright. Now we'll take I take the Allen fitting, and on the bottom cabane, let's pull it out a couple threads. And then we'll work on tightening this up. Then we have a tight little knot around the barrel, a nice little loop, and then as this one gets tightened, it'll pull tight here. I'll crimp this so it doesn't slip down anymore, and then tighten up this one, and then we can tighten up this tonight, and that'll equal out the tension. And then tomorrow night you crimp the one up at the top of the cabanes, and then or tighten this up overnight, it stretches, crimp the one up top, and then come back and you can adjust from here, and it shouldn't take much adjustment at all to get the tension taut. You don't need it super tight, but it's I'll show you with the twang test tomorrow, or let me get this finished set up and I'll show you tonight. Anyway, I'll be right back. Okay, so I have both of these crimped, and you can see it's not too taut, but not too loose. It'll hold a straight line, but twangs a little. And then what we'll do is tighten this up. And that'll tension it up a bit more. You can hear the tone change. Even these out a little bit. Alright, and then we'll let that sit overnight, and then come back and tighten it up with the jam nut by screwing it in more, and that'll tighten them up a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and crimp the rest of the ends and get them tightened up for tonight, and we'll come back tomorrow night. Okay, so we've let the wires sit overnight, and you can see that they still got a bit of tension, but they're not quite as tight as they were yesterday. So, but they're evenly tensioned, so it's a good time to go ahead and pinch the upper ones closed. And the lower ones. And then make sure that we're not going to get any more uneven tension there. So now it's up to adjusting both of these. What I've done is I've taken the little clip off the bottom of the clevis here. And I'm just going to pop this off. They're a little snug. They should be. Because I don't want to twist the wire too much. Take the jam nut loose, and I'm just going to go in 2 turns. And reset the jam nut a little. Trying to be careful not to bend or break anything or have it get loose and cut the monochrome. I'll go ahead and loosen this up a little bit. see that side is a little tighter. Okay. And that's about as tight as you need it. It doesn't need to be super tight. So I'll set the jam nut here, and don't forget to put the keeper back on the end of the clevis. You don't want them to pop loose in flight. Alright, now I'll go ahead and set up all the rest, and then I'll come back and do the tail wheel springs. Okay, so I have the tail wheel set up, and I went ahead and put the spring on the rudder side, on both sides. And all it is a little curly Q here. Let me try to zoom in a little. Will it focus? No. Hopefully you can see that. All it is bending it around. And the thing that you want to make sure of is you don't want to pull it, all the way out, pull it straight. You want a good bit of tension there, but you just need a curly Q to hold it on the bracket. And so I set one first, and then I come back and I pull the other one through. So let me go ahead and do the left side, and then I'll come back and do the right, and you can see this one. Alright, now pull this one down and thread it through, and then what I do is I kind of pull forward until I get about the same amount of tension on the rudder and the wheel. And this gets it really close for when you're taxiing. You don't have to give too much rudder, and it doesn't fight it too bad. I don't know of a better way. If someone wants to do a video response to this one and show another way and help share the information around, that'd be great. But that's how I do it, and it's been working good for me so far. So let me get it set up on the floor, and let's take a look at the fully assembled and all put together model before we get to the radio setup.